Sorry, the live video is not going, so podcasters, good morning. Natalie comes last, brewing coffee. Got my coffee here. Mm, yum. Okay, let's get started. Um, again, as we continue, a lot is going on in the world, and we just see that things are shifting very powerfully. People are maybe starting to recognize some of the um, skeletons in the closet that are coming out. In, you know, different people have been doing some pretty not so good things. I wouldn't say they were righteous, right? Things, and it's starting to be revealed. And we know that as we continue to move along this journey, that more is going to be revealed to us, and not only within our own self, but within the bigger scheme of things. If we saw this giant beast, there's things to be uncovered that we're trying to slay the beast and say it's time to revitalize the very earth that God gave to us. And it's time to repopulate it the way that it was supposed to be, by living on the land, for the land, with the land. And, I think that we've sort of, as society, because societies, they sort of get away from what really truly is important. And is it right, wrong, good, or bad? No, it's just so. And it's a reminder that we are God, right? It's to bring us back to that opening that we are God. And part of that, good morning, whoever's on here, I don't know who that is. Cheers to you though. Thanks for the hearts. Is that oh, it's Curtis. Good morning. Good morning, love of. Love of what? Love of ha? Just kidding. That as we return to the land, as we remember who we are, as we wake up, we have pockets of individuals that are starting to come together, that have already come together, that are creating these communities to restore the land back to the way it was supposed to be, originally supposed to be. And so pretty exciting stuff. And I'm super honored to be a part of some of that, and just looking at how do we start to create. Again, this is not about waiting on somebody to create something for you. Most individuals are sitting back waiting for somebody to save them or somebody to come in and tell them what to do next. The reality is that we have the power to create the very thing that happens next, and that's actually kind of cool, right? When you think about it. But most people may not understand, well, what is next? How do we create what is next? It doesn't have to look the same way. It's going to look sort of the same way, but not exactly the same way. And partially feeling like returning to the sacred promises, right? That we said we would abide by in God's will or God's understanding. So it's beautiful. I think that I see a lot of that happening. And I'm excited to be a part of it and to be part of individuals who are wanting to restore the original state of the land, which is nice, beautiful, meaningful, and just important and critical at this time. It's critical that we start to look at that. Is it going to be easy? Not necessarily. Will everybody do it? Not necessarily. But at least it's available there for individuals who choose to. So start heeding the word of God, right? Listening to your heart, understanding how God is speaking to you so that you can make the next moves that you need in your life, right? So that you're feeling like you're driving God's birthright or will on the opposite spectrum. So we started to see, so what's going on right now, if you just kind of look at social media, it's everywhere, really. There's agendas, of course. Everybody has their agenda. There's political agendas. There's beyond the political agenda. There's spiritual agendas. There's control agendas. I mean, there's all these agendas that are happening, right? These agendas are literally being used to manipulate people, right? And that's how some of these people do it. Is it right, wrong, good, or bad? Well, it's just up to us to be able to recognize when people are trying to manipulate the way that we view our world. Again, if you're listening to leaders, right, people that you follow, listen to them carefully. The biggest hint, I've talked about who you follow being very, very, very important to look at, is that when you're following someone and they say something, are they practicing the very thing that they're speaking about? Do they themselves practice it? Number one, right? Number two, it's like really looking at the people and asking yourself, are they using manipulation? And am I looking to them to save me? No one can save you but you. I can't save you. I'm not here to save people. It's not my job. My job is to live my life and experience my experience, communicate my experience with the intentions of others getting it, have what I have, and be responsible for everything. Right? That's mastery, right? Something I learned from an amazing master's teacher. That process of we are here to save ourselves. Now, when we start looking to others to save us, we're looking to a flawed human being. Why? Because man is flawed. We are flawed. Not in the sense that we're terrible, we're wrong, we're this, we're that, but in the sense that we are dense matter. Yes, we are God in motion, but we are not the one God. We are part of God. So in that sense, we are flawed. We're flawed because we believe that there's duality. We fight with each other. We have difference of opinions. We want to be self-righteous. We think we know it all, those types of things. And God knows that we can all jump into it, right? I've been that way before and I have to catch myself and say, okay, this is ego operation. This is operation ego. And how do I transcend that and switch it? So we are flawed. So to follow man to save you is an error. It's an error. Is it a bad thing? No. Is it going to lead you down a path that's going to support you? No. Don't follow man. I tell people, don't follow me. I know what I'm doing with my life. I'm simply here to support you to remember that you have the power within you to do it. Bye. Love you. You too. So you have the power to save yourself. And really, that's all we do, because it was really at one point self-righteous of me to be like, I want to save humanity. Who the hell am I? What? No. So we ourselves are here to save ourselves. Now, in doing so, we start within the family unit. Now, this is hard because it's a ripple effect, but our family itself is hard to heal. It's only hard because the family program was designed to keep us where we're at. It's almost as though we cannot be seen different by family members. And I've talked about this before. It's almost like they put us in a box, right? So our family members, some families will put us in a box. They've known us since we were kids. They've seen our behaviors. They've seen our personalities. They've seen who we are. And they think that we're just that we're just this personality and we can't live outside of that. Good morning, Jennifer. And we're forever trying to prove, and maybe you're not, but trying to prove that we're not that thing that they think we are, right? Good morning, Justin. We're telling our family, no, but that's not who I am. I'm not little Justin anymore. I'm not the whatever it is you are, right? So for me, I'll be like, I'm not, because they used to call me Nat the Brat. Everybody, my dad's friends, my father, my uncles, they would call me Nat the Brat. Hey, Nat the Brat. Hey, Nat the Brat. And they call me a brat. And they saw me as this little bratty kid, and they couldn't get outside of that. Good morning, Claire. Now, I'll say that I'm sort of could be bratty or whatnot, or stubborn, right? They would call me stubborn because once I fixed my mind on something, that was it, and that was that. And as I got older, like I said, it's like, no, I'm determined. I'm determined. I'm not stubborn. I'm determined. I know that what I'm doing is for good. I'm not trying to be self righteous. I just know it's good for me. And I never swayed from that. Okay. So, but they couldn't see past the stubborn. They couldn't see past the brat. They couldn't see. And it was hard for me to be anything else. So when I'm talking about saving ourselves or saving yourself, I'm talking about your spirit, right? That you reconnect to your spirit, not save your spirit. Your spirit's already saved, but that you reconnect because there's a disconnect between spirit sometimes in our mind and body. It's like there's this, it's a blockage. Of course, it's always there, but it's again, when I talked about Kundalini and clearing out the blockages, if you saw that the spirit was here, it's not really, but as visually just so you can see it, and maybe there's this tiny little piece in between the spirit and then this is your body. Okay, so at the bottom is your body, at the top is your spirit, and there's this tiny little portal. It's dripping in spirit. We want to open up that floodgate, and we want to open up the floodgate, allow the spirit to move through us. When we're clogged in this is who I am, this is who you are, and we allow people to point fingers at us, and we allow people to put us in a box, and we allow people to think that we're just that one way, and we start to believe it for ourselves, but deep inside knowing that that's not who we are. So how do we change the minds of others? We just operate differently. We allow ourselves to disconnect from the very root of where it comes from sometimes. If you see, it's like, we'll think about Jesus, right? I love the story of Jesus. It's very simple, but they say he's like the master of credit. He's the master creditor. Anyway, what did he do? He went out 40 days and he said goodbye. I'd imagine he went because he's like, I can't handle this. I need to like disengage. I need to reconnect to what I know is important to me, my values. I need to just be with me and God. And sometimes we need a timeout, and that's good. A timeout is good. A disconnect is good because we're trying to reconnect to spirit. Now, when we can stand firm in spirit and allow ourselves not to waver, we start to save our own self. That's it. You're not here to save anybody else. And I can tell you, go ahead and try, totally up to you. It's your life, and see where it gets you. You're going to spin your wheels because people can't even save themselves. They don't even know what to do to save themselves. So they'll go out trying to change other people. And it's a common theme, right? We're like, why aren't they different? Why can't they just see me like this? Why is this person like this? Don't they know that I'm a good person? Don't they know that, good morning, Suze, that I'm this? Don't they know that I've done this? No, they don't. Why is it that you're trying to prove it to them? Or why are you trying to change them to see you differently? Or why? And ask yourself those questions. Do you know who you are? And are you firm in who you are? Are you good? Are your intentions righteous? Are your intentions coming from spirit? Are they coming from the connection to the divine? Are they coming for the best interest of yourself and everyone else? Are your intentions not to harm, but to bring good into the world? If that's the case, then why do you need somebody to justify your actions or what you're up to? Good morning, Robert. Do you need somebody to justify your actions? Sometimes we do. But those are just questions you can live with, right? For yourself, to ask yourself those things. And, it's hard because, like, for a long time, I'll say from my perspective, and if you guys have stories, please chime in. I'd love to hear when you guys have stuff to say. But for the longest time, I wanted to prove my dad to be proud of me. I wanted him to be proud of me. And I didn't realize this until like recently, like I was older. And I was constantly chasing new dreams and doing new things and getting bigger and like a better career and a better this and go to school and speak at conferences and be in front of crowds and blah, 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 whatever. He was never there to see it all. And then one day I realized, why am I doing all these big grand things that they're not, good morning, Nisha. They're not really who I am. I mean, I love it, but what's truly good for Natalie, right? That was the question. What's good for me? And why am I doing all these things? Why am I off in the weeds? Why do I want to do so many different things? Then I came to realize that I wanted to impress my father, which I felt like he would never be impressed. Like it was never good enough. And I'm not saying that that's the case, but that's how it felt, right? Like it was never good enough. I could always do something better. It was like, oh, good for you. You're good. And I'm like, why? Why am I trying to impress this person? Well, yeah, I respect him and I love him and he's my dad. And of course, I want my father to respect me and be proud of me. And for what? Why? Do what I want to do. He's not even showing up to any of the things that I'm doing. Quad D, what is up? I've been talking about you on some of my podcasts, and I didn't think you were ever going to come back. Welcome back. How's the flat Earth life? See, I remember my followers and when they engage. So again, constantly trying to chase, right? It's like, I want to chase this thing and I want somebody to be proud of me. And I'm like, why? I should be proud of me. And not only that, what about the people that are proud of me? Now, was it bad no, it wasn't bad. I'm not going to go, oh, poor me, pity party. No, it's not like that. It's like a recognition that I wouldn't have got as far as I did had I not had that energy behind me. So I can appreciate it. I can appreciate the fact that I'm like constantly, good morning, Jonathan, that I'm constantly saying, okay, how do I get better at this? Or so it was good because I ended up doing things very successfully. But it also was a recognition and a wake-up call to find out what was true for me. So the very person you may be trying to impress could be your ally. Right now or in your life, you might think they're not your ally, that you're trying to impress them and they're never going to care. And you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to impress this individual? Well, really, what you're saying is, am I good enough? And you're looking for that validation outside of yourself. And you don't need that. You can look at yourself. So I would say if there is a scenario where you're feeling like this, you could look at yourself and say, look, I'm proud of what I'm up to. What do I truly want to do for my life? And when you start to look at your own life and start to say, well, this is what I want to do, you start to get clear about who you are and what you want to do. You start to save yourself. You start to save yourself. You start to recognize, and by saving yourself, again, I mean, you start to tap into spirit. You connect the spirit to your physical being. You open up the floodgate. And rather than the drip system, good morning, Betty, rather than dripping in spirit, it starts to flow, right? And as it flows through you, you start to walk your divine birthright. You just become it. Okay, you become your divine birthright. That's what we do. We're here to become. And we save ourselves. And in the process of doing that, I'll read all of your comments in just a second, okay? Because there's a bunch of comments. But in the process of doing that, as we save ourselves, people start to recognize it. And they're like, whoa, I want some of that sauce. What is it that you're taking? Now, it's not forced upon, because that's another thing, I think individuals will do is they want to force upon their spiritual awakening on others. And it's not, the reality is you can't. It's everybody's divine timing. But if you live by your spiritual practices and awakening, people will come to you, not because they see you as a savior, but because they see that you're saved yourself. And really what they're asking is, how do I do the same thing? Can you support me through that? You cannot save them, but you can simply guide them to save themselves. It's up to them to do the work. You can't do it for them. You can't forgive for them their pasts, but you can guide them. And so we don't then become the saviors of other people. We become a facilitator of change for that individual. So when you start engaging and trying to change people's minds about who they are and what they're doing and all this and that, because it becomes a self-righteous thing and you disconnect from who you truly are. Just be the person you know you are. If you're loving and kind, be that, rather than having to tell people they need to be that, right? Just be it. Show up as love, no matter what, in the practice of it. Again, when we connect our spirit to our body and we allow it to flow naturally, seamlessly, and effortlessly, we then save ourselves. And as we save ourselves, that energy is radiated out to other people, and they're asking you, well, how did you do this? How are you, living your life? I had and after this thought, I promise you I'll read your things, but I had a person just the other day contact me, and their question to me was, have you ever, this was the question, have you ever made a decision that you just totally regretted you made? Like you just totally wished you would have never made the choice because it led you down this terrible road or whatever. It didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. And although most people would say that I do, I don't regret any choice I've made. And I said, I hate to say this, but no. And I'm going to tell you why, because I chose my spirit first, always. Always. Even when it felt like it was so hard for me to walk away from situations, right? But I knew in my heart of hearts and I knew in my spirit I had to. And it almost felt like my entire world was going to collapse and shatter. And everything was going to fall to pieces, right? Good morning, Betty. When everything was just going to be demolished and I didn't know what I was going to do, I trusted in God. I said, I've got to let this go. I have to. Don't have a choice right now because my spirit's being compromised and I can't do that. I'm not going to. I won't. I will not. And that is why I speak here, because I know that God's gifts are greater than any gift that I could give myself or any human can give me. The blessings that are bestowed upon us when we walk in spirit are greater than any gift we can possibly get. My dad used to always tell me that when God lays his hands upon you, you'll know it because it'll be so great. I mean, you just won't even. And when you follow that and you trust in that, and it takes a lot of faith, right? It takes a lot of being able to let go of things that right in front of you seem like good. It's like some people will sign their soul. They say people sign their soul to the devil, right? Like people will sign over their soul to the devil, meaning that they'll choose materialism over the spirit. If that $1 million contract means that you have to do some weird shit that you know that you don't want to, but you're like, but that's just tiny. I'll do it. But it's compromising the very core values that you have. That's signing your soul to the devil, right? That's saying that I'm going to compromise what my spirit's telling me is right. And that's God. God is telling you this isn't right. You know it. But will you walk away? Can you walk away from the materialism of that? Can you say, I need no possessions because I trust in God? There's even a saying. It's like, I don't know what the saying is. If you guys know it, you read the Bible, you guys probably know. So please, if I misquote it, please put it on here. But I know that the gist of it is that, they say, well, okay, so you believe in God, walk away from all your possessions right now. And so most people will be like, oh, no. I've walked away from so much has happened to me. Materialism doesn't matter to me. That's not, for me, that's not important. What's important is my heart, my spirit. So when you follow that, you don't live with regret, because then I always say God will bless me abundantly in ways that I don't understand. And I trust in that. And guess what? It works. It shows up because God is abundant. God is like, here you go. But there's this non-attachment to the materialism. It's not that we don't like it, it's just that we don't need to be attached to it. And that supports us, right? It reconnects us to our divine birthright, to who we are, to be able to walk away from the materialism, reconnect with spirit, and save ourselves. Okay, so let me read these. That's a good question. I am struggling with being so judgy. I catch myself, but no, from my past. Good morning. Hey, Spirit, wishing you well. It's great. I've been working nights. You can't ignore spirit or truth. Yes, Quaddi. Um, yeah, and it's okay. So the thing with that, Suze, is that it's okay to be judgy. I like that, judgy. It's cute. Um, it's okay to be judgy. So there's, like I talked about before, there's the three mirrors. And one of the mirrors is judgment. And beyond that, right, is that what is the reason for the judgment? Where did it come from? Where did you discern between this was right or wrong? Where did you discern between whatever this person is doing is not the correct way, or whatever it is that you're judging, and that I have the right way and that they're doing it the wrong way? Because there was something deeper that created the programming around what's right, wrong, good, or bad. When we could bring ourselves to neutrality, we can then open up our spirit to new ways of seeing the world, or new worldviews. So again, it's okay to be judgy if you recognize it, but then it's like, I want to go deeper into understanding where this is coming from. Why is it operating, and why is it there? What's the mechanics behind it? What's going on? What's the programming? That's to dig a little deeper. Okay. Curtis, I am so proud of you. You're an inspiration. Can't wait to put our work together to see what it takes. Thank you, Curtis. I'm excited too. We're going to be doing some retreats coming up. So, you know, anyone who wants to be involved in any of the retreats that are going to be coming up, all that kind of stuff, I will put it out there. You guys are more than welcome. I don't know how close you guys are to me, or if you're in the same location or even near my location, but would love to have a retreat. I know we're going to be planning one for a very intimate, small amount of people, like 5 to 10 people, very small, probably the first of the year. And we're looking at it, seeing how we can bring these retreats to people so that there's engagement, because a lot of what happens with these live videos is it's just me talking. So I can only pull from my perspective, right? From what I know. But the value of having individuals around is that the perspective of everybody is different, and it leads us to different conversation. The path will go down many different ways. And in the space of a retreat and opening up the space for individuals to communicate, it really allows me to step outside myself and then support others' path and journey. So in other words, I get to shut up and listen, and then facilitate the ability for people to communicate and open up, which is beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful scenario, right? When you have people opening up and being vulnerable and able to communicate what's really in their hearts. That's such a beautiful thing to see, and to be a part of, and an honor. So love to have a retreat, and really looking at it, like you said, you're examining that, right? Examining it from a space of you're not going to get rid of judgment. There's no way. We all judge. It's a natural thing, and rightfully so in some cases, right? You judge not to touch a burning fire. Well, good for you, because you want to live and you don't want to hurt the hell out of yourself. Burning yourself does not feel good. There's certain things that we judge, right? And but it's looking at why, where did it come from? And then how do I recognize it and remember that my judgments aren't real? They're not the right way. They're just the worldview that I was created from. Like, how did these people program the very things that I think are right, wrong, good, or bad? How do I drop into neutrality? It's hard because we see, even with me, like we see a lot of this stuff going on, and I'm just going to say it, and I've talked about it before, is the sex trafficking stuff that's going on. This stuff they're doing to children is grotesque to me, right? It's disgusting. It makes me want to throw up. I get nauseous thinking about it. Like I have to stay away from it because it's so disheartening. And those are judgments that I'm placing on people, right? Like you sick, whatever. Now, to come to a place of neutrality, to forgive those individuals, because again, who am I to judge, becomes a challenge. It becomes a challenge. So it's not, sometimes it's not easy when we talk about subjects that seem like they're unforgivable. But again, who are we to judge? That doesn't mean that we can't call it out as not being righteous and that we can't say please and pray. Like I just really literally yesterday cried and said a prayer like, please release these children, God. No man is going to save them, but God can. And then I think prayer for them. And also the sickness of these individuals that are engaging in this behavior be healed, and pray for them. That they awaken to their divine self, that God touches their hearts, and that they wake up out of whatever kind of magical spell they're under and recognize that what they're doing is not righteous in the eyes of God. It's not a judgment, but to harm another like that is an operation of the ego, not an operation of God. So how do people wake up to that? Is it up for us to save them? No, but we can pray for them and recognize that whatever brought them to that point to do such a heinous act, they must have gone through some really, really, really weird stuff in their life to end up in that situation. To be able to do that, to harm a child like that. And I pray for them, literally. So again, coming to the place of neutrality, and that's probably one of the most atrocious things that I could say. There's other things that I can set as examples. So those things, it's like, well, then if I'm judging someone because something minor, let's say they don't wash their hands after the bathroom, like that's gross too, right? And we're like, oh, they're dirty, or whatever kind of judgments we, oh, there's, whatever comes up in our heads. It's like we can learn to be in the space of neutrality and say maybe they were never taught. It doesn't matter. Whatever helps you to forgive and stop the judgment and bring you to a space of neutrality. Then we can start to open up and understand the programming behind why the judgment is there. So it gets pretty deep, and sometimes it's crazy. um, but there you have it. Again, reconnect, save yourself, reconnect your spirit, and allow the spirit to flow in tremendously. So right now it might just be dripping in. Open it up a little bit more and let it, like, maybe it's not dripping, but it's a small stream right now. And then you open up further and then it's a big stream. And before you know it, it's flowing through you and the magic starts to happen. The miracles happen. God's miracles start to unfold right before your eyes. A master, they say a master, right, is like when you're mastered this, you don't even have to really speak. It's almost as if I said pen, right? And a pen just falls from the sky and it's there for me. When you're in the flow of God, when you're in the flow of life, when you allow the Spirit to fully flow through you, okay, things start to come together effortlessly. Things flow without force. And when they start to flow without force, you start to see God's miracle through you unfold effortlessly and abundantly. And I'm sure that a lot of you have experienced that. And when you're going, like, everything's like just happening and it's happening right, and it's because you know you're on the right path, and it's like boom, everything's starting to open up, and you're like, whoa, like one thing after the other. It's like, you know, when you're thinking about that person and then they call you and you're like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you. It's like that, right? So an example from my perspective was, I had told a good friend of mine, and I don't know if he's still on here, but he was actually on here. I told a friend of mine, you know, I would be good to like see you, and to connect with another friend of ours, and then we can all connect together. I think it's time for us to, you know, start talking. And I never called her, and her name is Suzanne, by the way. um, and she so I didn't reach out to her. I didn't call her, and I was busy doing my stuff, and I kept saying, I'm going to get to it, I'm going to get to it. And then boom, I get a call from her. She's like, yo, I'm going to be near your home, I want to come visit you. And boom, she shows up. So she didn't just show up in a small way, she showed up her whole body. She doesn't live where I live, but she showed up, and now she's showing up over and over and over again. But that's the thing, is when we're completely connected and spirit is there, again, I give it to God and I let God lead it. And in that, you start to see the characters that show up are the very thing that you're wanting to connect to with. Spirit will flow through you magically as a miracle, one after the other, after the other, after the other. That's how you know you're in flow. When that happens, okay, because it doesn't happen all the time to everybody all the time. When it does happen, that is an opportunity for you to ride the wave. When that happens, ride the wave as much as you possibly can. Stay on as much as you can, because it will eventually swing the other way a little bit. So we could be in flow for like a long period of time, and then it, so the height that you go is the amount that you could fall to. So we're looking for that space of like just calm waves. You don't want too high of a wave or too low of a wave. You just want it just right. And you start to ride the wave a little bit longer. And everything just starts to open up and everything starts to work. Okay. Good morning, Tony. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Kumar. Cheers to you guys. So, again, connect to spirit. Allow yourself to be saved by yourself. Good morning, Kristen. Know that know that nobody's going to save you but you. It's up to you and your relationship with God, and let that be the healing power that saves you. Okay? Saves you from what? Saves you from your your ego. That reminds you that your ego is the only thing that's keeping you from actually manifesting your divine birthright. And that ego is a tricky one. It's tricky. Does crazy little tricks. I'll laugh at mine sometimes, you know. Get friendly with it. Recognize when it's there. Have conversations with it. I do. People probably think that I'm a schizophrenic, which is fine. I'm like, really, Natalie? Not today. You're not going to do that today. You need to just zoop, and then I'll laugh. Really? That was total ego. Total ego. But I call it out and I recognize it for what it is. And then I'm like, okay. And I can even communicate that with an individual. If I'm in a fight with somebody, or if I'm in a disagreement with somebody, I'm like, okay, I'm coming from a place of ego right now. I need to step away. I can't because we're not going to get anywhere. The ego's not there to resolve anything. The ego's there to be self-righteous. The ego's there to be right, fight. That's what the ego does. I've got to be right about this. When we step into spirit, we create a win-win situation. We take personal responsibility and we're able to communicate why the ego showed up in that experience. So it's like, oh, okay, okay, ego needs to be right here. Let me walk away, come back and say, look, my ego was in operation. It was in operation because I felt attacked. I felt attacked because blah, 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 blah. I know it's not true, but it just makes me feel this way. And that's how I feel internally. And I'm working on that. To be able to be vulnerable enough and to recognize and to communicate that out to somebody, not an easy task. Certain situations where we're not able to do that takes humility, takes bravery and courage too. I have to have these conversations with my niece all the time. And thank God she understands me and my language. I'm like, wait. And she knows too. I'm like, is that ego talking? What's coming up for you here? What's going on? Yeah, it's probably that. Okay. Now that we can identify that, now we can get past that. We can understand that that's not what we're going to use to come to a conclusion or come to some agreement. We can't come to an agreement through ego. Won't happen. That's not what the ego's function is. So when we can resolve that and we can recognize it and we can come in harmony to another individual, open ourselves up and allow that to dissolve, we come to a new sense of understanding of one another, a deeper connection or intimacy between each other. Okay. Okay. So there you have it. It's a lot for Monday. That's a lot for Monday. Like a manic, marvelous, miraculous, miraculous, magical Monday. So, okay, so I will see you guys tomorrow. And then I will see you guys, yeah, tomorrow. Good morning, Doreen. How are you? Cheers to you, Doreen. Yes, I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day and keep up the good work. You guys are doing amazing, and I'm so, 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 so honored to be in connection with you guys more than you know. And I pray one day we will all be able to be in each other's presence and all share in the wisdom circle so that we can then learn from one another. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for your wise counsel. Thank you for your wise counsel and your ability to open up and communicate. It's important. Okay. So I love you guys. You have a magical day, a miraculous day. Let the miracles flow through you. It's a time of miracles right now. God is with you always. Okay. So just know that. All right. Love you. Bye.